Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's start with you guys. How did you guys stumble onto this as a subject and think this has to be a documentary and we are the right people to do this?
Good question. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you go.
Okay. We'd known about the work of Human Rights Watch for years. Katy and I both did films. I did Born in the Brothels. Katy directed a film called Deadline, and we were in their film festival. And it's a wonderful film festival, so we'd known about Human Rights Watch, we've known about their work, and we sort of thought this could be an interesting avenue to explore. And we had to figure out a way in, and our way in, what we found out, was through the emergencies team.
And that brings us to Fred. How did you guys meet Fred? And was it, I mean, obviously we saw lots of Skype things. Was it a Skype meeting? Was it an in-person meeting? Did you?
It was a date. Fred and
Awkward
Katy
date.
and I, we dated. But we actually did. We met over dinner one night in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't in Brooklyn, though. It was in Manhattan.
I keep thinking it was in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
have to
we
say.
did, yeah, Ross and I had dinner with Fred and Anya and Ula and Peter many years ago. We keep trying to figure out when, but like 4 years ago. And it was like a blind date where Ross and I were trying to figure out, like, are these people we'd like to spend time with to make a movie? And they were sizing us up and saying, like, do we really want to take these guys along with us when we go into the field to do this difficult and important work? And we've thought, this is going to be an unlikely, and it'll be unlikely if they're interested. But after several times of meeting and talking and assessing the relative danger of various things and what would be in their way, et cetera, we said, let's try it out. Let's do some shooting and see what we come up with and see if there's a movie there.
And there was obviously a lot of courting. And Fred, you had to trust them to be able to not blow. I mean, you guys obviously do a lot of undercover work. You do a lot of guerrilla type things yourself. And so you had to know that these two were the right ones to help you tell that story without interfering, kind of.
Yeah, it was a leap of faith for us, and because it was something new. And we wanted to make sure that it was critical for Katy and Ross to have their creative independence, but we also had to get along, and trust them that they would respect the atmosphere we're working in. Sometimes witnesses are nervous and the security is precarious, so that first date was a sort of sussing out of character and, are these people who we could trust with this project.
Well, and let's talk about the shooting of the film, because it obviously did have this real danger aspect. I mean, we heard the shots, there were blasts and things like that. Like, getting into that part of it, did you realize before you went how much at risk you would be when you were there, or did it get more real as you were there?
It's funny because you're so used to this. You're used to all it, and for us, it's a very sort of a new thing. I mean, we've both filmed in some sort of precarious places, but war zones are a little bit new to us. But we were very careful and meticulous about the security. We relied heavily on Fred and all the E-team members because they really know what they're doing. They know the risks that are inherent in this, and they calculate those risks with the advantage of, they calculate the risk. What did you say? Like, you actually calculate the risks and try to assess if it's worth going into a situation.
Yeah, I mean, we have to determine whether going in is it too risky? Is the cost-benefit analysis going to make it worth our while? So, and there are a lot of times we say no. It's too dangerous. It's not worth it. And to date, we're thankful no one of my colleagues has suffered serious injury, and Lord knows that's because we take a lot of precautions. We really take care. And just because you go to a dangerous place doesn't mean you are immediately in danger. If you take the proper preparations, you can manage and minimize the risk.
And speaking of preps, like, you guys weren't getting permits, obviously, to shoot in Syria, it was kind of a guerrilla style for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're both used to sort of shooting guerrilla style.
Ross is a big shoot now, ask questions later kind of cameraman.
Yeah, sort of. But that's sort of the way I think some of the best documentaries get made, and it's tough, and you have to take certain chances and certain risks, and at any time we could have gotten kicked out of different countries, but
Did you have any connection with the film commissions over there, or no?
I'm not sure Libya and Syria have very good film commissions. I think they're in a state of flux at this point. Yeah.
And what was it important for you guys to get across that you guys wanted people to come away from the movie thinking or wanting to do?
You know, we really didn't have a preset agenda with this film about what people take away from it. One of the things that Ross and I have in common as filmmakers is we really wanted to get to the core of the humanity of all the people involved in the film, starting with the E-Team members themselves. Like, to have the audience really feel like these are people doing extraordinary things, but they're real people. That's why we went to great lengths to film them at home and see them, the contrast between their home lives and their work in the field. So part of our thinking was, we don't want to, even though they're doing these heroic things, we don't want to put them on a pedestal and have people say, oh my goodness, look at that incredible thing, and I can never do anything like that. But kind of also get down to the grittiness of the work and their lives so that you could feel connection to them and connection to the people they're working with in Libya and Syria and around the world.
And we were also very careful because we've seen a lot of earnest films about social issues, and we want to be very clear that this is not that kind of film. You know, we had a lot of fun on our shoots, even though they're in very, dangerous and sometimes sad places. But in that sad place, that's sometimes where some of the greatest joy happens. And it's really important to show the humor, show the joy, and show the sadness.
But I think that's where there was creative tension because, you all wanted to get at the characters. And
Right.
we wanted to minimize that. I mean, my
Right.
job is to get the issues out there,
Mhm.
right? Trying to put ourselves down. I'm not a part of the
Right.
story, and you wanted to get in that. So, I think the film has that balance, and
Absolutely.
hopefully it works.
Well, and one thing that's interesting about this film is that it's the first time that independent filmmakers have been given this unlimited access to the E-Team members, which is so it's a very real privilege for Ross and I to have that kind of access to Fred and Anya and Ula and Peter. And we frequently did have the situation where they're used to saying, well, we're about our work, we're not about ourselves. And Ross and I were like, no, we're turning the camera on you to show what you're doing. So that was a constant tension and a source of fun for us as well.
Well, the access was incredible. Like, just every bit of it, you're like, no, they're really going and they're really with them. And it's something that, as someone who's not involved, you don't know about unless you see something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but we also, we went in with a very clear, we went into this project with a very clear message. We went into this project knowing and telling, I just want to say warts and all, you'd say.
Oh, yeah. Well, we wanted to make sure, I mean, to Ross's point, that we didn't want to just make a film that was sort of showcasing a bunch of kind of flawless individuals they would look up to. We really wanted to say, we're going to show, make a warts and all portrait of the E-Team as well. And so that was, so as a result, if they were sleepy and just waking up in the morning and Anya hadn't put on her makeup, Ross was still, rolling the camera. We want to see what's really going on and how you are when you're exhausted and how you are when you're cranky and when you're frustrated about not being able to achieve something that you're doing. Because it's not like the work is always successful. This is very, very challenging work to stand up to some of these governments. You're not going to win all those fights. And that was part of the story that we really wanted to show as well. Like, how do you keep going in the face of what seems like impossible odds?
Well, and the story arc of the pregnancy and the baby obviously was very lucky.
Don't give it away. Sorry.
Oh.
No, that's okay.
Well, because I just felt like that's what gave you hope, but also showed you that there's still work to be done, but it was just very well done, and you couldn't have done that without that baby. Like, it's so...
Well, there's...
That baby saved our asses.
Well, we also...
Shouldn't
there's
have paid for that baby.
there's
timing of that
Wasn't
baby was
great.
impeccable.
The other story, the behind-the-scenes story about the making of this film, is that it took many years, 4 or 5 years, depending on how you count it, and many, many babies were born. All 3 of us sitting here each had a baby. Fred had 2.
With our own partners.
Yes, that would make it an even more interesting film, but that is... So, and Anya and Ula had a baby, so I think it's
And
6...
Peter.
Right.
And Peter.
So I think it was 6 babies that were born
During
among
the
the
making.
cast. Well, we don't call it. So 6 babies were born among the subjects and between Ross and myself over the last 4 years. So there's been a lot of family, parenthood issues going on behind the scenes. And then it was great that we also managed to have in the film itself one of the babies' lives beginning.
And finally, what is it like to be here and to have people see it through the festival?
It's a different scene for me, and I think for Anya and Ula, obviously. But I feel like very happy to be here because it's a chance for people to understand more about the countries that are in the film and human rights work. And understand what these issues are about, how do people get at it, and maybe when they see a human rights report or in an article or in the media, they'll know that it's not someone sitting at a desk and coming up with ideas, but actually investigating, and verifying, figuring out what's going on. So I hope that's important. I hope it's a contribution.